All right, Steeler fans, and I guess Titan fans, if you happen to be listening to this, it is time for the Behind Enemy Line segment. You know, Thursday Night Football sucks. Most people don't like it. I don't necessarily like it, but when the Steelers are playing, you got to cram everything into such a short time. It is Wednesday, but here we are talking about the upcoming Thursday night game. To do that, I bring in Jimmy Morris, who is a Fans First Sports Network contributor. He covers the Tennessee Titans. What's up, Jimmy? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. You know, this game is weird. It's really strange when you talk about the dynamic of these two teams. You think about the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've been hit or miss, winning record. You talk about the Tennessee Titans, who a lot of people thought were going to be sellers at the trade deadline. DeAndre Hopkins, even Derrick Henry's name was being floating around. Well, boy, has the tenor changed when Ryan Tannehill leaves. They don't turn it over to Malik Willis. They actually give it to Will Levis. The dude throws for 4 touchdowns in his first game, and now everyone's kind of like, their hopes are up. What are the thoughts? What's the overall vibe around the Titans going into this Thursday night game?
Yeah, so it's funny because I think a lot of us that really it's hard sometimes when you're a fan and you cover the team and you try to look at the current and the long term, right? And so a lot of us were kind of thinking they would be sellers at the deadline just because this team the defense has not been as good as everybody thought it was going to be. And so it was kind of one of these deals where coming into the season, it was like, okay, the AFC South's not very good. So if they can play really good defense and they can run the ball and they can hold teams to, 14, 17 points a game, try to win games 20-17, they can go 9-8, whatever that is now. And
Right.
they'll have a chance to win the division, right? Well, the defense hasn't been as good as we thought it was going to be. The offense has been worse than we thought it was going to be before we had Will Levis. And then the Jaguars are better than we thought they were going to be. So it's been kind of a weird year so far. But then, Ryan Tannehill gets hurt in London 2 weeks ago, and the Titans had the bye after that game. Go to Levis on Sunday. And we knew at some point, if they were out of the race, that they were going to have to get a look at these young quarterbacks, Malik Willis and Ryan Tannehill. We've seen Malik Willis, and he's not an NFL quarterback. I mean, maybe if somebody can design a system for him, but not here. It's just not going to work out.
Right.
He started 2 games last year when Tannehill got hurt. Tannehill came back, got hurt again, and they signed Joshua Dobbs, and they signed him on like a Tuesday, and he didn't start that Sunday, but he started the following Thursday night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that pretty much told you about the confidence they had in Malik Willis, right? So, and that was with, the Titans they had a week 18 win and end game last year. Like, if they would have beaten the Jaguars in week 18, they would have been in the playoffs. They would have won the AFC South. And they elected to start Dobbs, who had been here for like 2 weeks at that point, over Willis, who had been here all year. So anyway, we knew at some point they were going to go to Levis because they traded up in the second round to get him, gave up a bunch of capital. They had to get you need to get a look at him this year because Tannehill's not back. I mean, regardless of what happens this year, Tannehill's in the final year of his deal. Derrick Henry is too, so he's probably not back either. So at some point, you need to find out if you can build around Will Levis or if you need to take a quarterback again in this upcoming draft. And so the injury kind of forced their hand to Ryan Tannehill. So decided to go with Levis over Willis as the starter. And I mean, he looked great, and we never doubted the arm talent, right? I mean, there nobody questioned that coming out. It's just the fact that, in 2 seasons at Kentucky, he threw 23 interceptions. He threw 13 his last year at Kentucky. And so it was a decision-making thing with him. He's had some injury stuff too, but the biggest concern was, can they get him to scale back on the whole gunslinger thing, make the right choice. If the check down's there, take the check down. If nothing's there, throw it out of bounds. And he did all that on Sunday. Now, it's one game. It was at home. It was against a Falcons defense that rates really high. I mean, they were really good statistically coming into the game. Haven't played great offenses. They're not as good as the Steelers defense is. So, it was it was a good landing spot for him coming off the bye, all that stuff. So, I mean, we're obviously all, we're pumped because he threw 4 touchdowns on Sunday where, Tannehill had thrown 2 total in 6 games. So, everybody's excited here now and just kind of ready to see where it goes. I mean, big test here, right? On the road, Thursday
Yeah.
night football, short week, all that stuff. So, but I mean, you got to be excited, right? I mean, came in through 4 touchdowns. We don't see that much around here, so it was fun.
No, and honestly, with Tennessee, I mean, everyone's got like Levis fever, rightfully so, because of the big performance that he had in his first start. But my question is about the running game, because when I look at the Tennessee Titans coming into Pittsburgh, I don't care that Will Levis threw for 4 touchdowns. It was a great performance, a great debut for the rookie. Good for him. My concern as a Steeler fan is still Derrick Henry, because Derrick Henry is still that guy. But as you mentioned, the running game has not really been what it has been in the past. What is missing with the Titans' ground game?
So, I mean, part of it is the offensive line's not very good. And, I mean, hopefully they're coming together a little bit. They basically redid the whole offensive line from last year. The only returning starter is Aaron Brewer, but he played left guard all year last year. He's playing center now. Center's his better position. But so the offensive line's been inconsistent. They got Nicholas Petit Friere back. He was one of those guys that got dinged for the gambling, not on NFL games, but at an NFL facility or whatever. His suspension was supposed to be 6 games, got reduced to 4. He actually didn't start his first game back, but then in the second game, they put him in for Andre Dillard, who they signed to be their left tackle. Anyway, there's been a lot of shuffling on the offensive line. Seems to be coming together a little bit. Now they are banged up there. Chris Hubbard, the right tackle, had a concussion on Sunday. He's in protocol. I would be really surprised if he plays on Thursday. So been shuffling there. Part of it also is, game script type stuff. They get behind. They have to throw. And then part of
Yeah.
it's just seeing the loaded box and teams not having to respect the passing game at all. Ryan Tannehill has been great for this team, but I think he's done. Like, he can't move like he used to be able to. And so when teams don't really have to respect the passing game at all, it obviously makes it a whole lot easier to stop the run. And, Derrick Henry, I mean, there were a couple of games where, like, his average, you see all those next gen stats and whatever it is, like his
Yeah.
average where he got touched from where he got the ball was, I mean, I think it was twice where it was negative yardage both times. Like his average where he got his first contact was in the backfield, like a yard and a half. So it's
Wow.
impossible. I mean, Derrick Henry needs like, I mean, he's great, obviously, but he needs a lane to kind of get up to top speed. And if he doesn't have that, it's harder for him to get going. And so when he gets hit in the backfield, it slows that down even more for him. So it just kind of all those things kind of coming together have been what slowed it down. Like I said, then you get negative game script. You can't hand it to him. There's a stat I saw earlier this week where it's basically like anytime Henry gets 22 carries or more, the Titans win. Now you can argue causation correlation with that. Like sometimes that's just because they're up late and they're just,
Right.
feeding him the ball. But there is something to, the offense goes as he goes. And they drafted Tajay Spears. He had gotten a little bit more run early, but in this game on Sunday, I mean, Derrick Henry got 22 carries. They were giving him the ball. Seemed like they were kind of committed back to that. So I think you will see it revolve a little bit more around him as they go forward.
And I'm curious about DeAndre Hopkins. A lot of people thought that he would be traded. He stays. He's coming off a huge game, obviously with Will Levis. Just chuck it deep to DeAndre Hopkins. Is
That's
that
right.
the plan in the passing game?
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I mean, so DeAndre Hopkins was obviously with the Texans for a long time in the Titans division. And I mean, he's made a career off of, offensive pass interference. They never called on him. I mean, and now it's beautiful because it's for us, right? So, I
Right.
mean, the first touchdown the other day, I mean, he's running down the sideline. Levis throws the ball a little bit inside, and Hopkins just basically just like wraps the defender up and turns him around and then goes and gets the ball. And they didn't call it. I mean, it was great. But yeah, I mean, listen, to his credit, man, like, he came in the game. Levis came in the game and is like, "Hey, I've got a Hall of Fame receiver out there. I'm going to throw it to him." And I mean,
Yeah,
it
why not?
makes so much sense, right? But like, so yeah, he's been great. And the Titans have had this terrible history of signing old receivers, and they've been past their prime. Most recently, it was Julio. But I
Yeah.
mean, they also had Robert Woods last year. That back in the day they traded for Randy Moss, couldn't get him on the field. I mean, all this different stuff. Andre Johnson. I mean, all these guys that were here kind of at the ends of their career. And Hopkins has come in here and been great. He didn't have a touchdown before Sunday, but he had 3 on Sunday. And, he had another 100-yard game. He's just still, I mean, just consistent, reliable, 3rd and 5. He's going to find a way to get open, throwing the ball, catch it. So, I mean, he's
Yeah.
been kind of everything they could have wanted when they signed him. So that's been good. I mean, that's one of the few bright spots that they've had on offense through the first 7 games.
As a Steeler fan, and I hear that the right tackle is probably going to miss this game because of concussion protocol, my brain goes to TJ Watt's going to have a favorable matchup. How's the pass protection been for whoever's at quarterback for the Titans this season?
So, I mean, overall, not very good. Like I said, they've shuffled the offensive line around a lot. That when coming into the season, it seemed like Nicholas Petit-Frere, who's a second-year guy out of Ohio State, was going to be the returning starter. He's going to be the right tackle. He was the right tackle last year.
Right.
We thought they'd plug him in at right tackle. Well, he gets hit with the suspension. They signed Chris Hubbard. Hubbard was pretty good, so NPF didn't get his spot back when he first came back. But they put him in for Andre Dillard because Dillard was playing so poorly at left tackle. And then when Hubbard got hurt against Atlanta, they switched NPF over to right, put Dillard back in at left. So, the offensive line is a work in progress. They're going to have to help. I mean, I'm assuming that it's going to be NPF at right and Dillard at left. Like I said,
Yeah.
unless Hubbard somehow clears. But Vrabel's been, I mean, guys, I can't remember the last time a guy got a concussion and played on the following Sunday, much less
Right.
Thursday. He's been really conservative with that stuff. So, I mean, I assume we're going to see NPF at right, and he's okay. I mean, he's serviceable, but yeah, that's the big concern coming in. They're going to have to help him. I mean, clearly,
Yeah.
because he just not. I mean, most tackles need help, right, with TJ Watt,
Right.
but
Exactly.
especially guys that are a little bit below average. So I would assume they'll try to give him a lot of help over there and get the ball out of Levis's hand quickly. I will say Levis moves in the pocket better than, like I said earlier, Tannehill just doesn't move like he used to, and Malik Willis doesn't see it well.
Yeah.
So Levis did a good job of manipulating the pocket, and he's not, you don't think of him as a runner necessarily, but one of those guys that can create space for himself in the pocket, and so he helped the offensive line in that way on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a great point. Let's let's flip the script. Let's go to the defense. And you had mentioned earlier in this segment that the defense has not been playing up to what everyone expected, expectations of the fan base. What's going on? Because I still think they have a pretty good defensive front, but where are things misfiring? I know they traded Byard to Philadelphia. Terrell Edmonds comes in. Steeler fans know him well. What's your take on this on the Titans defense?
Yeah, so I mean, it's been a couple of things. Harold Landry, their best edge guy, tore his ACL right before the season started last year. And so he's been here the whole time. But I mean, I think it's just one of those deals where I don't know if he didn't trust the knee or if it wasn't fully healthy. He had 2 sacks on Sunday, had a sack against the Ravens in London. So I think he's finally starting to come around a little bit. Still got Jeffrey Simmons up front, who's one of the best defensive tackles in the game.
Yeah.
Got a guy, Tierre Tart, that a lot of other fan bases haven't heard of. But he's a good player. He missed a couple of games before the bye, was a little bit banged up, and they missed him for sure being out there. The secondary, we knew the secondary wasn't going to be great, but you thought they could mitigate that with a pass rush, right? If the pass rush is
Right.
good, it doesn't matter if the secondary is not as great as you'd want it to be. Byard, listen, I love Kevin Byard. He'll be in the Ring of Honor here. Great guy on and off the field. I mean, it's just been everything you could have ever asked for from a player. But has lost a step, not the same guy that he was a couple of years ago. So sending him out is not really as big of a deal. Terrell Edmonds didn't start on Sunday. They actually started Elijah Molden. Edmonds did play some, but the secondary is not very good. And so if the pass rush doesn't get home, that's when they kind of have problems. And they've had problems. The biggest fear that I have in this game is the big play to George Pickens, because that's been the thing that's really gotten this defense, has been big plays in the passing game. Like I said, if they don't get home, and whether it be something over the top or something, medium range, somebody misses a tackle and guy runs a long way. So that's kind of the biggest concern coming in. It's that. I mean, I think, like I said, the pass rush with Landry coming along, I think it's going to be better now than it was earlier in the season. So now it's just a matter of, can those guys cover long enough to give them a little bit more of a chance to get home?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Now, I said this last week when I was talking with the person who was covering the Jaguars. The Steelers were getting ready for that. I normally don't ask about special teams, but if you go back to the game that the Steelers had against the Rams, where their kicker missed 3 kicks, I said to myself, I should start asking these people about their special teams. So I'll ask you the same question. What are the Titans' special teams like? Have a good kicker? Any question marks in that area?
No, so I mean, Titans have the best punter in the league. At least statistically, last year he was the best punter in the league. Was a rookie. They actually cut Brett Kern, who had been here forever and was still a really good punter, to keep Ryan Stonehouse. So punting game's good. They traded for Nick Folk. Right before the season started this year, that the kicking game here had been a nightmare. I mean, just
Yeah.
like a revolving door of guys. And then the guys that, like, they can't kick here, the Titans cut them, they go on and they kick well somewhere else. There's 4 or 5 of those guys that the Titans cut and have been kicking with their team now for a couple of years. So that had kind of been a disaster. But Nick Folk he hadn't missed a kick all year. And so he's come in and been really good for them. The concern with him coming in was he didn't kick touchbacks, or maybe he didn't kick off last year. But anyway, there weren't a lot of touchbacks, but apparently New England, they had figured something out where they thought they were better off kicking it short and covering it than kicking touchbacks. So, I mean, he's been great all the way around. So special teams is actually pretty good. The biggest concern on special teams has been punt returns. Kyle Phillips, who's a second-year guy who they thought was going to be good for them, has been a disaster. Doesn't know when to catch it, when not to catch it, fumbles it, all that kind of stuff. So they've kind of been mixing that up. But brought in a new guy last week, caught the ball. So, I mean, I think that's probably, at this point, you're just hoping somebody just catches it when they're supposed to and put it on the ground. So, I mean, that's been, so special teams is not really, I mean, it's been good so far for this team.
Good. All right, fantastic. Let's get to predictions. I've had a lot of people on the show that they say they don't want to give a score prediction. That's fine. The current spread that we're looking at is the Steelers giving the standard home field spread of 3 points and the total of a whopping 36. So, Jimmy, if you don't want to give a score prediction and you just want to say how you see the game playing out, feel free. But if you want to give us a score prediction, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, as low as that total is, I might take the under, and maybe not. Maybe now that we got Will Levis, I mean, maybe the Titans are going to score 20, 28 points every week. But this to me, it seems like two teams that are actually kind of similar. Pretty good defenses, a lot of question marks on offense. There's a lot of things that you feel good about on offense, but it just hadn't all come together for whatever reason. Right. So I expect a low-scoring kind of defensive game here. I think I said something like 17-13, something in that range. And again, like I have no idea how to project the Titans. Every week I pick them to win, they lose. It's the opposite. So like I don't really know. It's impossible really to tell what you're going to get week for week for them. But like I said, right now we're all riding high on Will Levis. So I mean, hey, we may put up 30. I don't think they scored. I was just to say, sorry, I don't think they scored 30 since they traded AJ Brown. So, that'd be fun to hit, but maybe once. But anyway,
I couldn't say last time the Steelers scored 30 points either. Yeah, they're very similar. You have no idea what you're going to get week to week from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They put up 24 against the Rams and they scored 10 against Jacksonville. You literally don't know. Kenny Pickett's banged up. 36 is a good number for this Thursday night game. But Jimmy, I want to give you a chance to let everyone know where they can find you both on social media as well as your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So Home Run Throwback is the name of the podcast. Do pretty much daily, just kind of quick updates and then longer recaps and stuff. And then on Twitter, I'm at JMorrisMCM.
Very good. Jimmy, enjoy the game and we'll be in touch. Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No problem.